How's it going? I'm your host, 3Ps in a Pod. Welcome again. So I'm reacting to a video. I'm not sure if you guys remember these girls. They're called Just Two Girls. Just Two Girls podcast. They are from another podcast who many of you guys should be familiar with, is the Dr. Daff podcast, where there's, either 20v1 or what do you call it there? You have 12v1, or they just have two opposing sides who are meeting together, whether it be Christians versus Muslims, Muslims versus, Orthodox Jews or Jews, whatever you want to call it, or just different perspective on either side of the aisles. Dr. Daff brings them together and then they discuss. These two wonderful girls here, however, they are some monsters in the Christian apologetic space, which I'm aspiring to be. And so I actually just stumbled across their podcast by accident. I know they spoke about having a podcast of their own. It was great to see that they got it. Amazing. You have Chanessa and Kalea, which these two girls are amazing. I think also what's funny here is they're talking about dodging and how to debate against the opposing person, and they're giving us 6 points here. But what's even funnier is they got Hillary Clinton, Hillary Clinton drawing, and then you have Donald Trump on the other side there, which is funny. I don't know if that was their intent, but hey, the message is there clearly. But again, I'm inspiring to be get into the apologetic space because I'm beginning to realize that there might be a calling for me in this space. I like to have conversations with people, and I'm drawn to it. And so to see Kalea and Chanessa talk on these points about how to have a debate. Another person I want to refer to you guys as well, who also helps you guys helps to in a debate and teach you how to debate and knowing how to remain calm and collected, and also to remain, which these girls do excellently. But his name is Nate Sala. I'm probably butchering his last name. It's called Wise Wisdom. Once I get that channel, find out what that channel is. He's an amazing teacher. And another person I like to follow, he recently had passed. I think it was late last year or early part of this year, if I'm not mistaken. His name is Voddie Baucham. Voddie Baucham is an amazing apologetic preacher. And man, he doesn't know it, but I feel like in a lot of ways he was my spiritual father. So, but anyway, if you're getting into the space of wanting to learn how to debate, I got to find out. I think it's called Wise Word. Once I find that channel with Nate Sala. Oh my gosh! If he were to hear this, he'd know I'm butchering his last name. Again, I'll put a pin. I'll do a separate video giving a lot of key point channels. Giving channels for you guys to follow to learning how to debate. Another person, if you guys don't know, as a matter of fact, who's also famous on the Dr. Daff podcast, is God Logic's wife. If any of you are familiar with God Logic, man, that boy puts a lot of spanking on these Muslims, puts a lot of spanking on Hebrew Israelites, puts a lot of spanking on Jehovah's Witnesses. That dude he's amazing and filled with knowledge. I would suggest even following this page and see the tactics and how he's able to stay on topic with a lot of the things when it comes to debate. But anyway, I'm going to get right here. I started off at the 7-minute mark. So if you guys want to follow this channel, their channel, Just Two Girls Podcast, I'm going to put their link in the description box below. Tell me what you guys think and again, be respectful. We want to make sure that we have a platform where everybody can speak. And yeah, let's get started.
Jewish.
Oh my gosh. Let's go back here.
Episode, ex-Jewish or ex-Christian episode with Jess. She made some points. There was moments where I was just like, I never thought of it like that. Like that's something I'm gonna look into. Like I didn't know that. I'm gonna have to look in. Even when they were saying because of, I think we were just like, because she was like, I was like, she said it says because. I literally said, oh wow, well I'm gonna have to look into that. You know, so I think that's fair. And with us, like I was gonna say, it's harder because for the most part, I'm not gonna say we're dogmatic, but we can't be convinced of something that.
To be honest with you, I think it's okay to be dogmatic. I think it's okay to be dogmatic in the stances you're on, especially when it comes to showing your self-reproof. Sorry, guys, for the pop-ups there. Especially when it comes to showing your self-reproof and God's word. I believe being dogmatic to a degree is okay because that means you're standing on business, right? Can you have a discussion and or debate about something that you might feel indifferent on? Yeah. But being dogmatic doesn't necessarily mean, let me just put a pin in that right there. I believe being firm in your stance is a good thing. Being firm in what you believe in, especially when it comes to the Word of God, when there's every other religion out there that is trying to dismantle what God has put before us to follow. When it's based off of a moral compass, a guidance, and for the most part, helping your spiritual walk so that you can die to yourself daily. You have to be able to stand and show your self-reproof. You have to be able to really give an account, right? And being part of that Christian community. Listen, let me just say this. Muslims are radical. Muslims are radical. I believe that we have to have that same, if not more, of the same energy when it comes to protecting what God has given us to protect. When it comes to being good stewards of what God has given us to steward, right? And to give and share the knowledge and being able to show, this front line cannot be broken. It cannot be compromised. So I believe being dogmatic, going back to the dogmatic stance here, hey, you are to show love and to show peace and to be patient, meet people where they're at. Don't get me wrong, we are to do that, right? As that is the fruits of the Spirit, but we are all to also at the same time. You see it through the Bible where Jesus is, I would consider, dogmatic about his stance. Jesus is just. Oh, there we go. Jesus is just, and Jesus is showing love and compassion while at the same time he doesn't compromise. There's no bending of the knee, right? So, all right, getting back to it, I don't want to drag this out anymore.
And true. So there is that part of it too, where we have our position and we're strong-willed, but it is a good thing to be honest and just like, never heard of that. I'll have to look into it. Not familiar.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
I think there was a moment in that former Christian, currently Jewish episode where Jessica, we were talking about I was talking about the different messianic figures that Judaism ascribes to, Messiah ben Joseph and Messiah ben David, and how essentially they're.
And by the way, let me just point out, I believe, here's the thing, guys, it's important that, that take notes, have a book, take notes, key points on where you can look into the Hadith, the Quran. They made mentions of another one. I don't remember what's that other. I think it goes by rank, if I'm not mistaken, but I'm not there yet. So once I come into more of the knowing of how that works, then I'll know. But anyway, get into taking notes. Especially if you're going to get into the space of debate, take notes, do your studies, go into the word. And because while you're studying, guess what? Revelation happens. While you're studying, revelation happens, right? And so we can get to the meat of the issue without these people trying to dodge questions. And they're going to get into another point there is called, I think, logical fallacy, which is I'm really interested in getting to know again, because I want to get into the space of apologetic, and was, you know, in the debating space, because I feel like that's my calling. I'm starting to feel that maybe that's where I'm being drawn to. Again, you know, yeah. Anyway, take notes.
Like we talked about in the Isaiah 53 episode, there is a suffering servant that is Messiah ben David, and then Messiah ben Joseph is the messianic figure. I hope I didn't swap those two. But when I shared that with her, she was like, no, like that's not accurate. And she was saying that it was about specific people in the scriptures, not necessarily about the Messiah. And I was like, oh, that's not a perspective that I've heard. Like when I read about it, they were saying that they were messianic figures. So yeah, even if you disagree with the counterpoint, like still acknowledging, oh yeah, I've never heard that before. That's new. That's news to me.
Yeah. And then even like just from a general perspective, we probably already said this, but like not dodging it actually speaks volumes to your ideology, because it shows like you have good character, you're honest, and that's a good thing too. Like people respect that too. Like, man, I respect that she didn't know, and she, you know, she doesn't know. So
yeah, 100%. Okay, we're gonna do a whole episode on logical fallacies, but we can. Oh my gosh, we can. I don't know why it did that. Get out of here. I don't want you. Go. How do I
can't see anything. So
okay. Logical fallacies. People say things that don't make sense. So we can just briefly hit this point. Is there a moment where someone said something that didn't make sense to you?
Cora.
And then they didn't clarify.
Let's see. I'm trying to even pin this down. Logical fallacy. Something that was very fallacious. I would say.
I believe Cora.
I started to look into this last night, but I would say one of the more recent ones as well. 1v20, the one Muslim versus Christian. Ty asks, "Is your God omnipotent or omnipresent?" She's like, "No, my God is not omnipresent. My God is not in hell. My God is." And so I actually went into some research last night on her perspective, and to me, that is, I would say that's a fallacy, because the general understanding of God is that God is present everywhere. He is powerful. He's all of these things. Yeah. But her philosophy, personally, is that he's actually none of those things. Like she openly says, like he's not omnipotent. He is not omnipresent. The only thing she says he is omniscient. So he knows everything. He doesn't, but he's not all powerful. He's not everywhere. He is not. He's temporal, and he's only immutable when it comes to like his certain things about his essence. So it's this real convoluted thing, and essentially what I think she's trying to do, or what I noticed she was trying to do, is like create a system that's defensible or indefensible. Basically defend against the Trinity, defend against Jesus being God. Because if you say my God is omnipotent, the question then says, okay, if he can do all things, he's all powerful, why can't he come as a man? So she literally tries to safeguard against those things, but ironically it backfires, because if he's not omnipotent, if he's not, then you're describing a man. So I would count that. I don't know if you would count it as a logical fallacy, but that's what comes to mind. I'm kind of blanking because I know there's probably been many, but or the New Age one, I'm sure there was many where it's like that one was, oh my gosh, it's like, when I kept saying you're the little gods ones. Well, I'm the God of my perspective. I'm the God of this, and I'm like, okay, that's the point. Like you cannot be a little God and still acknowledge God, because God is God. It was just this whole circular thing, but I felt like that was a lot of law of contradiction. So yeah, that's what comes to mind. How about you?
Yeah, so great points that she's pointing out, and for me too, because I want to make sure that when I'm getting to the debate that I'm in the space of making sure that not only do I know what I'm talking about, but I do not want to have one of those moments where I'm doing logical fallacies, because it can happen on the Christian's part as well, and then boom, there goes the okie doke, right? And that's what these debaters who are on the opposition to us want. They want to give us strongman arguments, right? Or strongman arguments where they can trip you up and do this mental gymnastics where they evade the being held accountable, and they do the dodging, right? They do the dodging at the same time making a logical fallacious claim, but you don't want to be caught in that same tactic as well, right? So again, Chanessa's, hitting a lot of great points on that. That's great.
Omnipresence thing tripped me up too, because I was like, I thought that they believed that God was omnipotent, omniscient, and omnipresent.
Apparently, Sunni Muslims have this particular doctrine that allows for such things so that they can safeguard against the idea that God can become a man. And I just think it's so weird.
It actually works in reverse, because God should be aware of all things at all time.
Absolutely.
It's so weird.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's crazy. When I think of a logical fallacy, I think of the most recent New Age debate I did, the 1v20, when Bree, the lady, if you see this Brianna, not Bree, she was the white lady in the pink dress with the dark hair, and she was like wearing a flowy dress. She was down.
Did she have really long hair?
Yeah, really long dark hair.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she does like sound bath therapy and stuff. She was talking about the kingdom of heaven is within, and it was actually a prompt about, or it came up where we were talking about omnipresence too, and she kept saying, like, if God is omnipresent, doesn't that mean that God is within you and within me? And I was like, no, that means that God is hyper aware of his creation and everything that is happening at all times. Like, he's here, he's aware, he sees what's happening. And she continued to like restate what I was saying. Okay, that means God is in you. And then you guys have probably seen the clip online, the viral clip where she's talking about the painter, and she's like, was she talking about a painter? I think she was talking about a painter.
Yeah, she was. She like the painter's essence is, that's a
painter's essence, the essence of the painter is in the painting.
The episode that they're talking about is the New Age Christianity versus, Christianity versus New Age Christianity. So you can find that on Dr. Dav's, I believe, podcast is what she's talking about, if I can remember, because I remember seeing that episode. But yeah.
And I was like, no, it's not. Like the painting is an expression of the painter's creativity, sure, but they're very distinct things, as in their nature is not the same. A canvas doesn't contain the DNA that I have in my body. It's just something that I created, and making that creator-creation distinction. But she has continued to comment on that specific clip. Almost every day I get a notification of her going back and forth with people about that clip.
Almost a month ago.
And it's just... the creator, I've seen her quote, I believe multiple times, the kingdom of heaven is within you, which if you guys watched, or if it hasn't come out yet, we did an episode on most misused Bible passages, and that's one of them. But just a complete flopping and misunderstanding and restating of my position in the scripture. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
All right, number 3. Let me go to the screen. Deception. People sneak around the actual truth.
Yes, and so because I don't see my particular common debate tactic of red herring, I'm going to smuggle that into deception. Also give an example of deception outright. But I would say deception, what comes to mind are some of the conversations we had with Muslim women. One of the second ones that we had when we started discussing the hadiths, and we were specifically, like I was specifically saying, there are some hadiths, I don't remember what site or pin site they are, but it describes Muhammad being pressed in a cave and, all of these things. And then they respond and say, that's the hadith, but if the hadiths don't line up with the Quran, then we reject them. And that was dishonest, because that's not the traditional understanding. Like, either, I think there's people that are Quran only. That's how that works. You could say I'm Quran only, and then that would be
That's news to me. I didn't know, first of all, that there are different versions of the Quran. Again, see, this is important for us to know, again, as debaters, that we got to learn, we got to know where all these points could come from, and how to be versatile in it. And you know what, one of the points that they made early, which I think is important for us to understand, is that if you genuinely do not know something, do not do a dodging moment. Acknowledge the moment. Acknowledge, say, you know what, hey, this is not my area of expertise, so I'd have to do some more studies. As I believe Chanessa was saying earlier, Yeah, be honest, because what you do not want is have a viral moment of your dishonesty, and then you discredit the claim of Jesus, right? Well, not even the claim, the truth. We're not making no claims here. There's the truth. There's no claim. Anybody who's coming up against Jesus and His word and what God put out there for us to stay on business on, they're the ones making the claim against. We're not making no claims. We're stating truth. That should be a slogan.
Perfect response. Like, I don't even esteem the hadith as true, but the vast majority of Muslims do esteem hadiths if you're not Quran only, and then they even have a rating system, which is you have. I'm drawing a blank here because I'm tired, but I normally know this. But you have Sahih, okay, which is authentic. You have Hasan, which is a mix of like possibly authentic. It's the middle grade, and then you have Da'if, which is weak. And so that one was Sahih. That's one of the two most common hadiths that are usually referred to and respected and revered as Sahih Muslim and Sahih al-Bukhari. And that was al-Bukhari, I think, that I was quoting. And she just threw it under the bus. So I felt like that was absolutely dishonest. And then there's some dishonest moments in the 1v20, which I won't even get into because there was many of them. But what I will say is red herrings are my pet peeve, and you get a lot of those. I mean, not red herrings. Straw mans is what I'm trying to say. Straw mans.
I said
which,
earlier.
if you don't know, a straw man is essentially just creating a straw version of a man. So it's a caricature of a man, so that they can respond to the caricature in a way that makes them look good, because it's an easy defeat. Like, you can easily like throw a straw man in the trash, but that wasn't your position in the first place, so they're responding to a wrong framing of your argument, and that's a form of deception. And I will say, like, when I was in the 1v20, I'm sorry, I love you, Naima, but I would honestly say she's the straw man queen. I love you, afraid you come to Christ, because there's multiple instances where my argument was not honored at all, and I'm just like, why? Like, if the one that comes to mind is when I said, meditation is distinct from Christian meditation in this way, and the opposing type of meditation or new age meditation, typically I try to be very careful about saying typically, generally, because I know I don't know it all. I can't say explicitly like it's every single time. And so at the end of the conversation, she turns to the camera, she's like, we've all agreed that we like meditation, do not listen to her and all these things. I'm like, girl, like, don't lump me in. And she accused me of making all this blanket statement about all forms of meditation, but then you lumped me in and said all meditation is good because she even says that she practices meditation. So it was so silly to me. Yeah, it was really silly, and that's what comes to mind.
Yeah. For me, what comes to mind for deception is definitely the second Muslim episode we did, the second or third Muslim episode. But basically, I was talking about the persecution of the church and how Christians are heavily persecuted in other countries by Islamic countries.
Yeah, I believe she probably might even make mention of Nigeria. I don't know if you guys saw months ago where there's a pastor of a church who was pleading with Donald Trump to intervene on the behalf of the Nigerians that were being killed and slaughtered. And we're talking about within months of each other of time lapse, where the villages in Nigeria were being attacked by the Muslim state, right, by the extreme Muslims. And literally, I'm just going to go touch on this one point and I'm going to drop it right here. But they would go to these villages, throw fire inside through a window, and this is just one of the ones that I've heard. I don't know how it's not recent, but it's one of the ones that I've heard, instances that I heard where they would throw a fire through the window and force the family to run out the front door. And when they run out, they're met with men with machetes. You can pretty much guess what happened from there. There's actually a video of a gentleman who was doing an interview, he had stated that he lost all of his family. one being recent, where he was making giving that story to one of his about his family members running out of the home because of fire, so they're forced to go outside and meet these men with machetes, and yeah, you can guess what happens from there.
Is that there is an Islamic state of terrorism that is constantly terrorizing Christians, people having their heads cut off, people being imprisoned, people having their homes burned down, taken from them, etc., etc. You can go to opendoors.org to be able to see what kind of persecution is happening and where, but that website will show you that the persecution happens mostly at the hands of Islam, and the women on the other side just like raged out when I said that, and like did not engage. They started talking about the Crusades, which, if you know anything about the Crusades and the Ottoman Empire, it was actually the catalyst to the Crusades was Islamic oppression, and Christians after centuries decided that they were going to respond by force because of how many people were being murdered and slaughtered by the sword. So they brought that up, and a lot of like gish galloping the history, Christian history. They didn't want to focus on what's happening in, at the time, 2025, what religious persecution looks like in the world in 2025, which I think history is important, but like we have to tell the full history. We can't miscontextualize history to argue a point that's not actually true. So I feel like there's
absolutely, and I would even go back that would be logical fallacy, right? Misquoting or misuse of history and forgetting history, and all those kind of things. It's just an unfortunate thing, and this is why, again, you gotta hold people's feet to the fire, man. Especially in the opposing side, when you're in a debating setting, you gotta hold people's feet to the fire, and you gotta be willing to hold even your own feet, and expect to have your own feet to be held to the fire, right? Because what this does is make an honest person out of you. You have to be ready to give an account, I'm going to keep repeating, give an account, but give an account in a truthful manner. Give an account where, yes, being dogmatic, standing on business is great, but you do not want to be deceptive in your making your points of argument.
There's a lot of deception in that episode, and then even with the clip being removed and not being able to go up because they were super calculated, like just a hot mess. When I think of deception, I think of that episode immediately, because they were just not only unwilling to engage with the point, but also like just completely lie, and not take any sort of accountability for jihad. Oh, that's another thing. Jihad is this internal spiritual war. It's not an actual physical war that Muhammad is telling people to engage in the end of times. And I just don't find that to be true. when you read the text about slaughtering the infidel, among other, and when you look at jihadist groups, I don't think that they arrived at that conclusion because they're crazy. Right. I think we're actually gaslighting those people.
Yeah, I always say, like, those that are doing that like I said, even before these episodes, they're actually being good Muslims, because that's what the text said. The first episode I brought that up, it was Surah 9, 111, and I'm so convinced that that's the inspiration for 9/11, because it basically says if you fight in the way of Allah, then you will surely, essentially paraphrasing, receive paradise. Obviously, paradise is not assured to people that are in Islam. They don't know, but that is one of the ways, according to that text, and probably other verses in the Quran as well, that make it clear that if you fight in the way, that you're going to receive paradise. So why would I not want to, get a free pass to heaven? And I think that's where 9/11, like I said, came from. So there's definitely some dishonesty. I don't know. That's a fascinating one.
Yeah, there's so much dishonesty. And even, like, I've heard the argument, particularly about 9/11, like, the United States government was involved, therefore, and they use that to pin it on the Muslims. And, okay, even if I concede that the United States government was involved, which they probably were, because they're involved in most heinous acts, like, that's not surprising to me. But why were they able to offshore their dirty work to Islam? because they knew that there were people within that religion that would believe in what they were saying to do. That's the whole point. It doesn't matter how many hands were involved or what governments were involved. It's the fact that there's a group of people who believe in jihad. And so when there's an opportunity to carry it out, they will. You're not going to find anything in the Bible that says, go into a holy war with other groups of people, and you're not going to find Christians saying, "Oh, that's a spiritual war within yourself," because it doesn't exist. Like the word literally tells, Ephesians tells us, our battles are not with flesh and blood, but with principalities and powers in high places. It actually distinguishes and said, don't fight with your brother. It's not your brother. It's a spiritual issue. Don't fight with other human beings. It's a spiritual issue. You actually need to go pray and fast on behalf of your country, of your family, of whatever conflict you're having, not engage in physical warfare. So I just think there's so much deception with that particular concept. But
and we probably only have time for one more. We can do the dirty debate because I have some thoughts.
Okay.
Okay, the first thing that comes to mind is the BHI Jewish Christian episode. I think that was probably one of the clearest examples for dirty debating, because there was a point, this actually got taken out, but there was a point where the BHI lady in the niqab pointed, the prompt was Jesus is the only way to salvation, and she voted down, and the other two on her side voted up. And so she started speaking, and I will admit it was kind of hard to follow. It was convoluted because she voted down, but then she started talking about, I don't even remember. I watched that video maybe twice, and I still don't even grasp fully. I kind of sometimes mentally check out, but God forgive me. And so I think she was essentially saying, she mentioned something about, like, you don't know, like, there are people that are in other countries that have not heard about Christ, but he is God and he's the way to salvation. And so maybe that was her contention. And then Ty began to respond and she was trying to make a distinction, but it didn't come out right, that, you know, if the Bible reserves this right for God, but then you get to the New Testament and this right is given to Jesus, it will be considered blasphemous for Jesus to carry. And it sounded like she was trying to call the girl a blasphemer, and she sincerely was not. I'm not saying this to defend her because she's my friend. It just didn't come out right. And so as soon as that interaction concluded, the Jewish woman interjected. She was like, she said what she said. She agreed with you. It sounds like you're just judging her because she's sitting on that side. And then they were like, yeah. And I was like, what in the world? And so the part that did get cut out is Ty got really hot. And I grabbed her leg and I said, girl, we represent Christ in here. You don't have to simmer it down. And then she even still, she was just like, yeah, y'all instigating. And I was like, Ty, oh my God. They cut that out though. I don't know why, because I don't think maybe a lot of people were talking, but I don't remember, but I just know that was there. So I feel like the tactic used is to create division and discord and make us look like, you know, and honestly that may not always be a necessary dirty debate tactic, because I do see in scripture where Paul saw the Pharisees and he saw the Sadducees and he was like, you guys, and there's good times to exploit the differences. So maybe you can think and like, hey, you know, I've done that before when the Jews and the Christians, the Jews and the Muslims were there. And I quoted Surah 4:157, and I asked, you know, in this particular text it says, we have killed the Messiah, son of Mary. The Jews, and I'm like, is there any time where the Jews actually admitted to doing something like that? And they're like, no. And so I did that to kind of intentionally get the Muslim women to think, man, why would it say this if historically Jews have never acknowledged? So yeah, there are legitimate reasons to try to, I'm not going to say pit groups against each other, but to try to exploit the differences or the inconsistencies in supposed converging viewpoints, so one person can walk away saying, maybe that isn't accurate. But in the way that she did, I don't think there was any sincere motive other than to say, you're judgmental and you're this, and she agrees with you, and when she did it. So that is absolutely.
All right, so I'm gonna you guys can watch the rest of the video here, because they're gonna stop at number 4 anyway, and they're gonna probably pick up on the next episode wherever they pick up from. Hopefully I'll be able to catch it. If not, I'll do a video on that as well. But guys, let me get my 3 P's for this here. If we're going to debate, be honest. Okay? Don't dodge. Don't be deceptive. I would couple with that those main 3 points when it comes to debate. Be honest. Don't dodge. Don't be deceptive, because that's not the fruits of the Spirit at all. We know what the fruits of the spirits are, right? Kind, patience, love, caring, so forth, right? And we want to make sure we display that through and through. And why I can understand why Ty would get tight, because that's me. You know, if someone is, you know, being antagonistic, best believe, you know, there are going to be some buttons that are going to be pushed a little bit, but we have to display a level of a sense of level-headedness so that we can get through debates. And this is, again, because I'm inspiring everyone to become a debate. This was a great episode that they put out. And for anyone who wants to go look, definitely check them out. Just Two Girls, Janessa and Kalia. And then I believe, if I'm not mistaken, one of the other girls, you have God Logic's wife, Lady Logic, who has her own podcast as well. You should definitely follow. I'll put her also her link in the description box below. And then one more, the Thai girl that she's talking about. Thai is one of those. I think she's a female version of Peter. But yeah, these ladies are great, and they give a lot of great points. Anyway, be sure to stay tuned, subscribe, hit that like button, and share the video if you guys like it. As I go on, you know, I'm going to upload more videos. My content will be a little bit better as far as, you know, picture quality and things of that nature, as I am just starting off, and things of that nature. But again, hey, thank you for joining. Thank you for watching.